नमस्कार दोस्तों, स्वागत है हमारे चैनल थिंक टैंक इंडिया पर। थिंक टैंक इंडिया पर आज हम एक खास मैटर पर डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये डिस्कशन बहुत सालों से हो रहा है सिंस आवर इंडिपेंडेंस कि इंडियन हिस्ट्री को किस दिशा पर चलना चाहिए। क्योंकि इंडियन हिस्ट्री हमने देखा हिस्ट्री बुक्स में कुछ खास किस्म की हिस्ट्री हमारे सामने डिपिक्टेड हुए है। जैसे मुगल्स को बहुत बड़ी तरह चढ़ा कर दिखाया गया और एंशिएंट इंडियन हिस्ट्री को बहुत कम तर आंका गया। क्यों ऐसा हुआ? क्या हमारे हिस्ट्री में क्या प्लस माइनस होना चाहिए? क्या त्रुटि, क्या विच्युति होना चाहिए? सीधी हिंदी में बोले, क्या हमें पढ़ना चाहिए? इस बारे में हम बात करेंगे। इस बारे में बात करने के लिए एक मशहूर हिस्टोरियन हमारे साथ मौजूद है, सूर्य सारथी राय। सूर्य जी, आप हमारे चैनल पर स्वागत है। और इसलिए आज हमारा टॉपिक है डिस्टॉर्शंस एंड शॉर्टकमिंग्स ऑफ इंडियन हिस्ट्री। वेलकम टू आवर चैनल सूर्य सारथी राय एंड दर्शक रहिए। So my first question to you, what are some of the most distorted events in Indian history?
Okay, so the events are many, numerous. We can cite a lot of examples. So to start with, let us go back to the times of Muhammad bin Qasim, with his conquest of Sindh. What is shown to us that Muhammad Qasim in 712 CE had captured Sindh, but it is not shown to us, or we never come across the books in NCRT or any other state curriculum books, the places that were lost by the subsequent generals of Qasim and the Hindu forces had regained back control. The second instance that I would cite is Mahmud of Ghazni and Mahmud of Ghori. We all know about their conquests, their invasions, and how they committed genocide, loot, plunder of our temples, killing of innocent people. But what is not shown to us is their defeats. Let's say, for example, Muhammad Ghori. Muhammad Ghori was beaten back severely by Pulakesi II, the confederation of Pulakesi II and Nagabhatta, and these are all captured in the Aihole inscription, the same Aihole inscription where Aryabhatta also speaks about the dating of the Mahabharata war. We don't learn about the stiff resistance put up by the Sindh, in the northwestern front by Lalitaditya, the confederation of Lalitaditya Muktipada, the Kashmir king, and the Hindu Shaya dynasty. The Hindu Shaya dynasty, in fact, interestingly, is one of those dynasties in the Indian history who is never spoken of. There have been illustrious kings and furious warriors who are completely ignored. Then let us come to Mewar. Talk of the Sisodias. The Sisodias of Mewar were the only people who had putting up the resistance against the invading Mughal forces of Akbar. And we only read about the Battle of Haldigati, and it is told to us that Battle of Haldigati, Maharana Pratap was, he lost the battle. But actually, if you go and do the survey of the Haldigati battlefield and hear about and read the actual stories or the actual events, you will understand how it has been distorted, that he was never captured, he was never killed in the action. So where is the question of his defeat coming? And then subsequent to that, 6 years down the line, he had defeated Akbar's forces convincingly in the first battle of Dived. Now Dived, there were two major battles in Dived, which is not at all spoken of. The first battle and the second battle. The first battle where Maharana Pratap captured 36,000 Mughal soldiers, Akbar's forces, and 18 checkposts, Mughal checkposts. Now, what is also not interestingly taught to us is subsequent to Dived, there were 4 more expeditions led by Akbar, and each of these expeditions were as big as Haldigati, were as big as Dived, each comprising of anywhere between 80,000 to 1 lakh soldiers. and all these expeditions were also beaten back by Maharana Pratap. Similarly, what is not spoken of is Maharana Kumar Amar Singh, his eldest son, who was equally brave as Maharana Pratap, and he is completely, very willful omission of the character, just like, Sambhaji, Shivaji's eldest son, who was also an illustrious, warrior, and he put up a huge resistance to the invading forces of Aurangzeb. So these are a few to cite with. Then let us come to Bengal, since we are holding this call from Bengal. So in Bengal, the Pala and Sena era or Sasanka's reign is hardly spoken about. We don't even know. I mean, I don't know how many people would know, but the Grand Trunk Road, it was not actually obviously built by Sher Shah Suri, but it was the actually called Uttarapat, and it connected the Tamralipta Bandar, the port of Tamralipta, Tamluk, the current day Tamluk. From Tamluk, the road ran to Taxila, the great university of Taxila. And this has been mentioned in numerous ancient texts, starting from Swayambhu Manu's Manusmriti, where he speaks of the major trading centers, including Mathura or Khandaprastha or even Magad, the main cities who are in the trade route of Uttarapat. And it is the same Uttarapat which was utilized by the forces of Anga, Vanga, and Kalinga, who actually fought on behalf of the Kauravas to mobilize their forces. In fact, for that matter, Uttarapat was also used by the forces of Bhagadatta, the son of Narakasur, and the king of, Prag Jyotishpur, the current day Assam, to move from Kalinga to, Kurukshetra. So then let us come to Odisha. Odisha is another neglected state where the Eastern Ganga dynasty, who has given you the great Konark Sun Temple, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Jagannath Temple, all these, have been completely overlooked. In fact, there is hardly anyone who speaks about the Eastern Ganga dynasty. We speak of the Konark Sun Temple, we speak of the Jagannath Temple, but we hardly speak of, the forces of Eastern Ganga dynasty, which had beaten back many a times the Bengal Sultanate, had given a stiff resistance to the Mughal Sultanate, and also contributed in a big way to the Kalingan architecture. So these are some of the omissions. And then coming to Assam, obviously we now know by how the Ahom kings' achievements have been overlooked. The great Lachit Barphukan, then subsequent to him, the other generals who had actually pushed back not only Bakhtiyar Khilji, but also the Mughal forces of Aurangzeb. And these are all well documented. And each of these cases are well documented. There are inscriptions, there are epitaphs, there are first-hand accounts of both Persians, Arabic historians, as well as Indian inscriptions, pillars, and manuscripts as well. So these are the few details that we can talk of. There are many more, but the show will, because of stipulated time, I just kind of limited it to these particular events.
Sir, how much has Indian history been distorted by the British and other colonizers? And how much of it was done by political parties for their gain?
Okay, so let's look at the political parties, post-independence, somewhere between 1948 to 1957. Pandit Nehru had actually summoned R.C. Mazumdar to rewrite the Indian history. And Pandit Nehru actually wanted to rewrite the history in his lines, where he wanted to focus on the non-Hindu charter and make it a more Turkic Islamic influenced history. Then apart from that, the Indian revolutionary movement, Indian freedom struggle also was requested to be rewritten from a different perspective, which Dr. R.C. Mazumdar never agreed to, and he paid the price of it. So the whole event of misrepresentation of Indian history in the modern day or post-independence actually starts from there. And that is when, the likes of Irfan Habib, Romila Thapar, Bipin Pal, Bipin Chandra, they come into the picture, and we start reading the glorification of the Mughals, the glorification of Delhi Sultanate, the glorification of the Bengal Sultanate, the glorification of the Nizams, the Golcondas, and the Deccan Sultanate for that matter, and hardly the Hindu rulers who have done so much for their country finds mention. In fact, for that matter, a classic example is, let's go back to the Maratha history, where Shivaji still found a place, but none of his other subsequent sons like Rajaram or Queen Tarabai, who had actually defended the Maratha kingdom for 27 long years. They don't find a mention. The third battle of Panipat fought by the Marathas were really portrayed in a manner that Abdali completely overran the Maratha forces very easily, but which was not the case actually. So the distortion starts from there, and then following that, once R.C. Mazumdar, Acharya Jadunath Sarkar, Govind Sakaram, Sardesai, G.S. Sardesai, and all these people move away, till 1980s, there was, till the arrival of Sitaram Goel, we had a huge gap of 30-35 years where not historians, I would say historians come in, the communist bloc actually. And once with the arrival of Sitaram Goel, Professor Ram Gopal Mishra, these two gentlemen actually turned around the wheel, and they started speaking about the true history of Bharat. And that is why, we all in current day context should actually be very grateful to Sitaram Goel and Ram Gopal Mishra for rewriting the history and capturing the true events. In fact, as a part of my research, it was not even Sitaram Goel, but Professor Ram Gopal Mishra who captures in very detailed fashion the contributions of the Hindu Shahiite dynasty who fought with the Ghaznavis. He gave the Mahmud of Ghaznavi a tough battle for 50 years. Although they lost in many sectors, but they also won in some of the sectors as well. So that is one thing. And as far as the British are concerned, I think the British, let's go back to 1800s, early 19th century, when ASI was getting formulated, Epigraphica Indica was coming into shape. Yes, the Britishers have done a lot of work. They were the people to start the Archaeological Survey of India. They were the people to build the, the National Indian Museum. They were the people to start deciphering the Pali and Brahmi script. They were the people to collect all the inscription, epitaphs, and monuments. They started the archaeological diggings in many sites across Bharat. And also they kind of started listing, because you have to understand, which people don't know today, and that's why I'm referring to, when Archaeological Survey of India actually started their work, they actually started with listing. They didn't straightway go to the archaeological excavations or per se restorations or renovations. That was very little part of it. Actual excavation started much later, but first they went on listing of monuments actually. And in that process, when they were doing that, there is one gentleman, in 1873, when Alexander Cunningham rejoins back and restarts the ASI, he joins with a team of people. He had two main assistants. One was Mr. A.G. Carlyle. And A.G. Carlyle clearly reports in his document, in his notes, how Alexander Cunningham had destroyed many documents. He had destroyed many archaeological evidences, moved away archaeological evidences. So these are all captured as notes by A.G. Carlyle, his own deputy person with whom he was working. Carlyle joined ASI, I think, with a remuneration of 2,500 or 3,000 rupees in those days. So these are all documented facts. These are available today on the net in forms of research white papers. So these details clearly point to the fact that distortion of Indian history starts from a very early age, right from the time of British, when ASI comes in. And then the other part was that in terms of listing also, that the listing when it starts off, the focus is mostly on the Mughal structures. Somehow or other, the British archaeologists or the British experts who were there were kind of enamored by the Mughal architecture. But later on, as they started working more and more, they understood the Mughal architecture was a mix of dilapidated or destroyed Hindu temples and the pillars and motifs, all this being utilized. So yeah,
I'm interfering you in this matter. मैं PhD कर चुकी हूँ पाली लैंग्वेज में कलकत्ता यूनिवर्सिटीज में। कलकत्ता यूनिवर्सिटी में PhD कर चुकी हूँ। मैं आपको बोल रही हूँ, कुछ बांग्लादेश से कुछ स्टूडेंट आते हैं जो मॉन्क्स बोलते हैं खुद को, आके इधर यूनिवर्सिटी में एडमिशन लेते हैं, लेकिन आकर वो खुद बोल रहे हैं, ऐसे ऐसे हिस्ट्री बोल रहे हैं तो आपके दिमाग चकरा जाएंगे। बोल रहे हैं कि नालंदा यूनिवर्सिटी को बख्तियार खिलजी ने नहीं, उसे हिंदू ब्राह्मणों ने जलाया है, और वो आकर इधर 1.5 से 2 साल के अंदर पता नहीं कैसे वैसे वेस्ट बंगाल में उसका आधार कार्ड भी मिल जाते हैं, वोटर कार्ड भी मिल जाते हैं, और वो प्रोफेसर भी बन जाते हैं, क्योंकि वो माइनॉरिटी ओरिएंटेड डिपार्टमेंट है, और बुद्धिस्ट होने के वजह से उसको जॉब भी मिल जाता है इधर, जाके हम लोग हिंदू रॉयल कास्ट से होते हुए भी हमको नहीं मिलते।
Yeah, I mean, Buddhist historians, there has been a long battle in this regard that, Buddhists have always claimed that the Hindu emperors or kings have destroyed their sites and built temples, which is absolute exaggeration of facts, because there is no evidence whatsoever in any segment, be it an epigraphic evidence or numismatic evidence or any archaeological find per se, which can substantiate that fact. In fact, for that matter, what is documented is the other way around, that Buddhist takeover of Hindu sites. And the classic example is the Sri Jagannath temple in Puri. There is a temple chronicle which is called Madalapaji, which captures the chronicles of the temple right from 800 CE, from the 9th century, early 9th century. And it clearly captures that, there was a temple, built by the Somanchi dynasty later on, but prior to that, it was Hindu structure which was occupied by the Buddhists, and it was Adi Shankara who came in and fled the site after having a scriptural duel with the Buddhist monks, defeated them, and that is how he got control of the site once again. And Adi Shankara's life is full of such incidences. It is just not Sri Jagannath temple, but there are other incidences where he has converted the Buddhist monks into and brought them back into the fold of Sanatana Dharma, in the fold of Advaita and Dvaita Bhav, in the fold of Vedantic practices. Yes.
So हम एक्चुअली जानते हैं बुद्ध कोई धर्म की बात ही नहीं की, बुद्ध कभी खुद को बुद्धिज्म को कोई अलग रिलीजियन ही नहीं बोले ना। और एक बात बोल रही हूँ, वो जो आते हैं ना बुद्धिस्ट मॉन्क्स, वो बहुत बड़ा रोहिंग्या सिंपैथाइजर्स भी होते हैं, हमने खुद अपने आंखों से देखे हैं।
So I don't know about it, and neither I would like to delve into that, because that's a more political point. I am here to discuss on the historical facts and figures. So I would be happy to center my discussion around those points.
Is Indian history decorated in Indian school textbooks? Is there any third-party authority that looks after the facts stated in the books? If yes, then are they politically biased?
No, there is no third party who looks after this, the history books. The history books in the schools per se are designed by NCERT. There is a committee in NCERT which actually looks into this, and this committee decides what has to go in and what will not go in. So traditionally, the books that we have read is from NCERT, has been designed by the committee from time to time, and that is how it goes in. Then there is no third party involved over here. So NCERT books are across all state boards as well as the central board, And currently they are re-evaluating, and there is a panel which is working on this to relook at the Indian history, but it is still late. We should have done it earlier, but the good thing is that it has started happening, and we hope to see in the NCERT books a revised history in the coming days.
In what way did the Congress and left Indian historians distorted and hide the real history of India? Would you elucidate for better understanding?
See, I think I answered this question to start with. The event of Pandit Nehru that I mentioned, where R.C. Mazumdar was sidelined, and communist historians took over, and the plethora of examples, the few cases that I cited, starting from the Hindu Shaya dynasty, or Mewar, Maratha, or Bengal or Odisha. These are the facts or data points which, if you look at them, you will understand how Indian history has been distorted and what are the shortcomings of it. Now, in terms of shortcomings, that one point that I would definitely like to highlight is linkage of field study, heritage walks for the students, along with the academic rigor. Today, our education policy that is being currently pursued or practiced, it doesn't focus on field study, field work so much as it should have been. But the good news is the NEP, the new educational policy, actually focuses a lot in this respect. So the students have to visit be it temples, forts, or any other historical sites that they are being taught, and they have to visit those sites vis-a-vis, apart from their academic rigor, to understand what is being taught and what are these places actually. They should look at inscription, manuscripts. They should look at the battlegrounds to understand and get a sense of what actually they are studying, so that it instills a sense of pride into them. It instills a sense of antiquity and historicity in them, to make them understand that who they are and from what great civilization they belong to. So I think that's what the difference is there. And in the next 5 years, I would say things would definitely start looking up in a big way.
Thank you, sir. You have come to our channel. आप आए इतनी बेबाकी से हिस्ट्री की जो डिस्टॉर्शन और शॉर्टकमिंग्स है उस पर अपने विचार रखे. फिर से हिस्ट्री की कोई भी मैटर पे डिस्कशन होंगे तो हम आपको फिर से हमारे चैनल पे इनवाइट करेंगे. और पहले से ही मैं आपका इनविटेशन इन एडवांस दे रखी हूँ. आप दर्शक देखते रहिए थिंक टैंक इंडिया. प्लीज शेयर, सब्सक्राइब, लाइक एंड कमेंट ऑन आवर चैनल. नमस्कार.